All right, hey everyone. Welcome to our to another show of the day for On the Record with your host Tone Vays. And today is a very special episode, just like the last one, where we're gonna do a full-on Bitcoin book review. Let me just give you guys a minute to make sure my audio is good. I've been having some problems with audio lately, but that should be okay. And my guest today is the one and only Kiara Bickers.
Bickers, yeah.
Bickers, is it Bickers?
Yeah, it's
I know
someone
pronounce
people
I know pronounce people's last names. Should probably check.
it's all good. It's all
I've never
good.
called you by your last name.
Yeah.
I've known you for years now as Kiara. And if you notice, the logo right there on the sweatshirt, the same sweatshirt that I generally travel the world in, and that is the Blockstream hoodie. Because Kiara has been working at Blockstream for quite a while.
Almost 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
5 years of Blockstream. So you were there during the whole fork wars.
Yep. That was interesting.
Man. We got so much to talk about, but we are going to have to talk about Kiara's book. So that's going to be the majority of the conversation. However, we are going to do a little bit of a background. Audio seems to be fine.
Cool.
So I'm going to pull up your Twitter handle. You don't tweet very often, but go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh yeah, I stopped using Twitter before it was cool.
And this office is way more high tech than me. Like you're this is
I like
really
to work
cool.
in just like pure blue light. Okay, yeah. So a little bit about myself. I've been working at Blockstream for, like I said, about 5 years. I started out there as an intern. I guess my background would be I lived in San Francisco, so I would just rant about Bitcoin to anyone who would listen. And then a friend of mine got a job at Blockstream, and he like demanded that I work there. He got me the first internship there. That's Christopher Allen, and
Oh, cool.
yeah. And then they hired me full time to do sysadmin work. So I've just been,
Wait, what was your background before that?
Well, I was I did some development. So I had done some like Bitcoin projects. I won like a Coinbase hackathon. I was like a self-taught kind of hack together programmer.
But a sysadmin, so you're working on their database side.
IT, yeah, that kind of stuff. Yep. So I've been doing that for 4 years, was an intern for a year, coming up on 5 now. In about 2018 or 2019, I was seeing a lot of misinformation in the Bitcoin space, especially with people who are new. Like basically the amount of information needed to learn to understand Bitcoin was growing at a rate that new people were having a harder and harder time. And like simply doing things by like Googling, like what is Bitcoin? How does Bitcoin mining work?
And ending up on Bitcoin.com.
They'd end up on Bitcoin.com, and the technical explanations were also like woefully inefficient because they would often lead people down a rabbit hole of just like overly technical, what I would call noise. Like for a good example of this is like, you probably don't need to understand, like you don't need to see your private key in binary to understand what a private key is. Like that's obviously way too much resolution.
You also probably don't need to know what a martingale is.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of stuff you don't have to know about Bitcoin in order to understand Bitcoin. That being said, you do need to understand it enough to believe that it works. I've seen like a lot of traders having these really weird and complex conspiracy theories about Bitcoin was. So for the book, I was already around a lot of the core devs since I was working at Blockstream, which had hired a number of them, at least at the time. So I was getting lunch with them and I was hearing the way they were talking about Bitcoin. Then I interviewed some traders and I saw the large discrepancy between the two. And the goal in 2018, 2019 was really to produce a book that could teach people about Bitcoin with mental models instead of jargon. So yeah, that's what I did.
And that is the end result of a book. And you and I are actually thinking about this exactly the same. Because when I was on Wall Street, my job was to be like a go-between between the finance guys and the developers that were the quants and the C++ guys that were coding all of these advanced models. And I wasn't a good enough programmer to help. I would only make it worse. And I wasn't smart enough to be a quant. My master's in financial engineering from Florida State didn't quite cut it. No offense to Florida State. I still like you guys. And I was not going to pass. I was not going to get that PhD. That's way too hard. And but I understood the tech and I understood the finance really, really well. And I had this amazing ability of explaining difficult concepts in a simple-ish way, probably from my educational background. And this is how I teach trading. And after years and years and years of not having a conference that educates the Bitcoin complexity to the non-developer. Adam Back and I started talking at La BitConf in Chile back in 2018. And Giacomo was right there, and he sat at our table, and we said, hey, Giacomo, what do you think of this idea? And the Understanding Bitcoin conference was born. Right. And you guys can watch the videos from 2019. We couldn't do it in 2020, but this is absolutely coming back. And I want to do a podcast called Understanding Bitcoin just to educate. Like, the whole conference was developers presenting and demoing Bitcoin's complicated concepts to the non-developers so that they have a better understanding of the trustless nature of Bitcoin, which is what I say. The Bitcoin network, in order to use Bitcoin network, you need a lot of trust in the fact that it's trustless. Right. Like, how do you explain that to people?
Well, so the very first chapter of the book, I start with this problem. The problem is, as you put it, right? It's a trustless system that requires that you trust it. Right. Because there's a misunderstanding of the word trust, or I should say people in the developer community understand trust to mean dependency and risk. People outside of the developer world understand trust to mean like more of a positive thing instead of a negative thing. Anyway, the first chapter of the book is really just talking about Bitcoin as a decentralized clock. It's kind of hard to do verbally, but the idea is, okay, like, why are there blocks on the blockchain? Which seems like an overly technical question, but I swear, like, once you actually see it visually and you see how the blockchain has its own internal sense of time, and that's what allows it to be trustless.
And I absolutely love this book. I don't know if I can get it close enough to the camera, but well, like, this is perfect for me because I can barely read a chapter. It's got like a lot of smiley faces and so many diagrams in order to simplify the concept of the Bitcoin technology, which could scare a lot of people, especially the non-technical people.
Well, it's not Bitcoin for dummies. It certainly is technical. I get all the way up into opcodes. So like, you can understand how like the smart contracting language works in Bitcoin, which most people don't even understand that Bitcoin has a smart contracting language. Right. So getting the average person to be able to understand developer conversations is exactly what I wanted to do. Right. But there's a whole bunch of issues with that. Like, reaching that audience is actually quite difficult. Like, a lot of the times when we talk about Bitcoin and stuff, it's mostly the existing Bitcoiners that are listening. Going out and doing outreach into like newer communities, younger people, trying to reach those people who have maybe heard of Bitcoin but aren't doing their own research is actually a pretty tricky problem.
Okay. So what, man, where do we begin?
Yeah.
We totally skipped the part of how everyone found out about you because now we're already on the book. Back. But we're going to circle back a little bit to 2017, I believe.
2016? No, 2017.
2017. Right. And this is you in Berkeley. I'm going to pause that for a second.
Oh, yeah.
In
Berkeley. My Bitcoin street cred.
So this was, oh, yeah. So you are wearing Make Bitcoin Great Again hat created by Samson. Was he already at?
He was actually not working at Blockstream.
He wasn't even working at Blockstream at the time yet. And what was this rally for?
It was mostly like a principled sort of like, you know, people should be allowed to speak on university campuses type thing.
So it had nothing to do with politics?
No, it did. It did, because that's a political issue now.
No, but not like Trump versus like this. This wasn't like by politics. I mean, this had nothing to do with the presidential campaign because Trump had just become president.
Right.
Won, yeah. So this is a few months after Trump had won, but you're wearing Make Bitcoin Great Again hat, not Make America Great. No, not the mega hat. Let's see if they can.
Yeah, I was given this hat at work.
Can you guys hear this? I hope you guys can hear this.
I'm not exactly certain what you mean by that necessarily. I'm looking to just make a statement by being here, and I think the protesters are doing the same. And props to them for the ones who are doing it non-violently, but I think that's a very rare thing to do.
Right. So those of you that missed it, that was literally some coward running up to you from the side and pepper spraying you in the face for wearing the hat that says "Make Bitcoin Great Again." But yeah, it looks like something else.
Oh yeah, and then what actually happened 10 minutes later was even worse. It was like someone came along with like a stronger concentration of this stuff and just like
you got sprayed twice.
It was my friend got his ribs broken that day.
Wow.
Yeah, and that one didn't go viral because it wasn't live. So man, people got really messed up because it was just how do I even explain what happened there? I mean, we've been seeing this for years, but this was the first this was the first time the country, I think, really understood what Antifa was. Certainly, I had never heard of Antifa outside of like animal rights protests before. So this was, gosh, I guess it was a long time ago already. We've learned a lot since then.
Right. So this was, the initial example. Everyone says how the Trump supporters are violent, but here we go back to right after Trump won.
Right.
And like some guy is running up to pepper spray you in the face twice.
Oh yeah, no, it was so hard to deal with. I mean, honestly, like the clip that ended up airing in the news, they cut out the portion of me saying like thanks to all the ones who are protesting peacefully.
Right there. I heard
totally slandered me. Like, and when you at the time, like if you don't have an audience, you're really ill-equipped to handle media events like this in your life because they'll just drag you through the mud and there's not much that you can do about it.
Right. That's true, because so they cut out all the parts where you say, I'm glad everyone's like peacefully protesting. It had nothing to do with the election, had nothing to do with Trump.
No.
At all.
No, it didn't.
It was speech on campus, right? Free speech on campus.
Right. And
Which we don't have it at all anywhere anymore.
I'm very anti-censorship. That's why I work in the Bitcoin space. That's why I do what I do. And, just to me, everyone will always say people are private companies. It's a public university, but still they get to do whatever they want. So there's all these nuances to it, but it was such an annoying thing to have dealt with.
All right. We circle back to that. Now let's get back to the book. And, man, where do we begin? I say we go through the chapters, then we talk about some of the challenges and how the book was received, because we got to promote this book, guys. I'm going to be, it's really, really good. I've skimmed through it, but this is going to be, Julia's going to be mad at me, so she's not in the room. She's going to come back in. This is going to probably jump over. I have to read this first, then I'm going to read Julia's and Jimmy's book. Thank God for Bitcoin.
Is more about the money focus. This is going to be more about understanding Bitcoin.
This is even more for me. This is right in my niche of trying to explain Bitcoin to people. This is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, so let's just talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
The table of contents will help you. The table of contents is where all the value's at.
So let's go through chapter 1, challenges and understanding Bitcoin.
Okay, so before we even go into chapter 1, I'll say this. The book is divided up into 1, 2, 3, I think it's 4 sections, right? Mm-hmm. So the idea that helped me frame this entire book, because again, it's like about mental models instead of being overly analytical, is I wanted to go inside of the blockchain for part of the system, which is called analysis, right? And then I want to go outside of the Bitcoin system, which is called synthesis. So the first half of the book is really dedicated to understanding the blockchain at the appropriate level of resolution until you can get all the way down into opcodes. And the second half of the book, the format.
You pull it up. Boom.
The format looks awful in what do you call it? PDF or whatever. It looks better as a print.
Looks nice. It looks nice in print.
It looks nicer in print. Yeah. The second half of the book is dedicated to understanding finance. What are the economic drivers that really push the demand for Bitcoin? Like one of the questions you probably get all the time is like, what makes Bitcoin valuable, right? So that's kind of the second half. I also talk about mindset. I talk a little bit about trading. That's not my area of expertise, but yeah, that's the way it's framed. Mental models. Okay, so you asked me the question about challenges in understanding Bitcoin.
Yes.
Okay, so when I was hanging out with some core devs in Australia, a couple of them were telling me that no good book on Bitcoin really existed. Like a lot of them were, at least at the time, they were like basically copies of the wiki. And like the wiki is meant for developers. It's not meant for the average consumer of Bitcoin, right? Someone who just wants to like buy and hodl. So I looked at the flaws and the explanations and I tried to simplify it. So one of the things that people do, if you've ever bought a book about Bitcoin that tries to be technical, is they'll explain cryptography at a level that's probably not helpful. Right. So like going all the way into cryptography is like, although interesting, you're never going to get a grasp on it as a cryptographer would. So your understanding of it is probably misleading. Right. So I start off by just doing, if you can understand a lock that has 2 keys. Basically, if you have a lock that has like a key to lock and another key to unlock, that's all the cryptography that you would ever need to know. Right. But that's a fairly unusual concept because all of our locks only have 1 key, but it's not a bridge too far. You could imagine a lock that had 2 keys, right? So the locking key can only lock, it can't unlock, stuff like that. So again, I do this all visually, but I explain the level of cryptography that's actually helpful. And then once you have that concept down, then we move into the next one, which would be like the time chain and understanding why things are decentralized, why decentralization is valuable for censorship resistance, things like that.
Okay, so let's jump over. I want to find this really cool picture. I think somebody tweeted it out. It was this. Okay, cool. Yeah. So this was.
Oh boy.
I've never seen this.
Yeah. I've seen something like this. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's let me do a screen share real quick. Going back to screen share. So when you talk about locks, I remembered this picture existing. Let's go to screen share so you guys see what I'm talking about. So this is really old. This is pre-Bitcoin, but here you can see a concept of this is a one of seven, one of six. So any lock opens this thing, but you have 6 people that are allowed to open a lock, and you know who screwed up if something goes bad.
Sure.
So this is one of these situations where you have a need for multiple locks.
Right. And like the next level of understanding, once you understand locks, is that you have to understand that locking and unlocking is equivalent to sending and receiving. Right. Because people will ask, like, well, where are my Bitcoins? Like, well, they live on the blockchain. Right. So yeah, just like basic, what we would consider basic, if you know something about Bitcoin, if you understand smart contracts, if you understand how to do a multi-sig, it's probably too advanced for you. But I think there's like, I leave little Easter eggs in the entire book about like things that I've heard from core devs and people working in the space that other people may not know, like little historical things.
Yeah, it must be so fascinating, like working at the Blockstream office. And I've used this quote before. So the first part of the book, it goes like that. The very first line in the book: if you don't believe me or don't get it, I don't have time to try to convince you. Sorry. Satoshi Nakamoto, back in 2010, I believe.
Yep. And every chapter has a quote, and I have Greg Maxwell in there. He has a chapter. I think Matt Corallo as well. So Blue Matt.
Well, do you know who he said that to?
I can't remember who he said it to.
Oh, you're going to laugh when I tell you.
Okay, yeah.
He's responsible for 4 exit scams because he just exited his last scam.
Oh, yeah. Go for it then.
Dan Larimer.
Oh, okay.
Of BitShares, and then Steemit, and now EOS and ProShares before.
So I guess he gets it now.
No. No, he's still going.
He's still going.
He's still going, yeah. And this was when Dan Larimer was the first guy to do proof of stake.
Sure. Well, I mean, this is a great quote to show that using developer time to actually explain stuff is not the best use of their time, which is why this book was written by me and not a developer.
No, I say that all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't want to waste core developers' time. When I see people try to like ask them questions and like why, they're like, oh, they'll talk to me, like they should be working.
Right.
And this is what bothered me so much during the scaling debates, is that they should be working. They should not be explaining why your ideas make no sense. Because there's a million projects out there, and I take the same position. I assume that everything other than Bitcoin is going to be a scam, and I will be right 99% of the time. There is a 1% chance I'll be wrong. I doubt it, but it's possible. But I'll be still right 99% of the time. And when people say, well, you haven't read the white paper, and I say, I've read enough white papers to know exactly what this is going to be.
For people who haven't been in the space for as long, white papers used to be something that most people would read. Like everyone would read every single white paper. And then it was just, there were so many white papers that there weren't enough people to competently read them. And then white papers became marketing pamphlets.
I like the confidently part in that. And that's the other thing that I said, like Satoshi's the potential legacy of Satoshi, second to creating Bitcoin, is destroying the relevance of the term white paper.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
Like it used to be like something like revolutionary.
Right.
But the last revolutionary white paper that has ever been written is the Bitcoin white paper, because now everyone has a white paper. Their blog diary is now a white paper.
Outside of the crypto space, maybe there are still white papers of value, but
hey, there she is.
Cool.
All right. Okay, let's go back to screen share, and we're gonna pull up the next chapter, and we'll go through that. It's so much fun. You got to join our podcast more often to explain some of these concepts. Jimmy and I do the best we can. We really felt we did a great job during the scaling debates.
Sure.
We were doing like the fork war show, just try to explain to people the right way.
Right. I try and explain the history of the forks there, because obviously people who are new to the space are going to be vulnerable to the same sort of manipulation. I think when the fork stuff was happening, it was mostly, well, at least from my perspective, it was a lot of like libertarians that were falling for the rhetoric of Bitcoin Cash and stuff like this, and they didn't
Still
fully.
are.
Maybe still are,
Few.
but also the
See,
price is a
Kim-
helpful indicator that they were probably wrong, right?
And I could have used you at Kim.com's house. I mean, I was there for like 3 days, and I could not convince him, and he's on Bcash now.
You know what it is? It's actually quite dark, but people want influence, and they feel that if they choose like something slightly lesser, that they can push, they can have greater influence over the thing.
They can have control over it,
Right.
and that's what needs to get through people's heads, that that's not the future.
Well, it's his future because now he has influence. But for developers, I think a lot of the best developers, what do they want, right? They want to work with other extremely talented developers and kind of learn from them and like have cool conversations with people above IQ 150, right? Like that's what they want. That's from my perspective. So why would someone work on Bitcoin Cash by themselves when they can just like join working on Bitcoin? Like there are no competent, I shouldn't say there's very few competent developers on other projects.
which is actually more disappointing. Why are you there?
Well, because again, they probably want influence more than they want.
Which is why to me it's more disappointing.
Yeah.
Like when you have someone competent, somewhat technologically competent at these things, like that last potential inflation bug that Matt Corallo didn't sleep for like 3 days trying to fix. I remember seeing him at Honey Badger right after that happened, and a Bcash guy gets credit for discovering it. And if he's that good, why the hell is he there? Because it's going to be a failed project, and it's frustrating.
Well, it's also one thing to find a bug; it's another thing to fix a bug in a covert way, and it's a totally different thing.
So a couple of things on this. I love the fact that you're using the word time chain, because from my understanding, Satoshi didn't care about the word blockchain, and prior to using the word blockchain, well, the word blockchain is not in the white paper at all.
Right.
The word blockchain shows up as a comment in the code.
Time chain.
No, the word blockchain does show up.
Oh, it might, but so does time chain as well.
And so does time chain. So to him, these words didn't mean anything. It was just a way to describe the process
of 10-minute
blocks. I have the image. I have the blockchain image. I don't have the time chain image.
Yeah. So if you can show the clock, because basically what blocks are, they're the tick in the decentralized clock, right?
Wait. What do you? I'm gonna Google it on a different monitor.
Just scroll down in the thing.
Oh, it's here.
Yeah, it's probably in the preview. It won't be clickable.
Oh, okay. Like in here.
Yeah, just keep scrolling. Yeah.
The preview is pretty good.
It's kind of far down, but you'll get there eventually. But yeah. Oh wait, no, that's not it. Mnemonics. Oh, that's a good image. I sold this as art, and someone bought that for a couple $100.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so when I did the illustrations, like there was an artist that I really liked at my local coffee shop, and I got him to illustrate the whole book.
I'm gonna pull up the image. I haven't shown this in a long time. I wonder if that should not have been screen shared. I'm gonna go to my pictures. I use this image quite often, and it was part of my presentations. Okay, but I think I should be able to pull the image up. It would be in my presentation folder. I hate having dead air, but presentations, shitcoin presentations, because I have to educate people. And oh man, I guess it's my Bitcoin presentation originally. Bitcoin versus blockchain. There it is. So here it is. Here's the image. I may have to flip screen share. Oh, that's kind of small, but we can zoom in.
Oh, you wanted the comment in the actual source code.
Yeah. That was the comment from the actual source code.
Got it.
Where the word blockchain was used for the first time. I need to switch it to this guy. So there it is. So that's the first time the word blockchain was ever used by Satoshi. It was in I think it was the main.h file and of the code. And it
the code was much simpler back then as
well.
Yeah. It was like less than 10 files or something like that.
And it says nodes collect new transactions into a block, hash them into a hash tree, and scan through nonce value to make the block's hash satisfy proof of work requirements. When they solve the proof of work, they broadcast the block to everyone, and the block is added to the blockchain. Look at, there's a space between the word block and blockchain. The first transaction
doesn't look as good, though.
Right? It doesn't look as good, and
Yeah.
it's basically the way he described the process on the back end. The word blockchain was never supposed to be popular. It was just Bitcoin.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I would argue that I think time chain is a way better. It helps understanding a lot more than blockchain.
And now we're back to this. So you want to explain this image first?
Yeah, well, okay, so I'll explain this one. So this is, there's a concept when you're looking at systems, and okay, so how do you even define a system? Maybe I won't define it, but what I will say is, something is a system if it has emergent properties that don't exist in the individual parts, right? So our body is a system. The actual emergent property of our body is consciousness, right? You can phrase it in a number of different ways, but we have other parts that build up this body, right? So you have cell, that builds up tissue, the tissue builds up organs, the organs build up systems within the larger system, which is your cardiovascular system. And I use this all just to compare something that's familiar to something that's slightly foreign when we talk about Bitcoin. So like, what is actual Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is just value that's transferred in a transaction through inputs and outputs, that's aggregated in a block, because that's the unit we're going to use to track time and control the difficulty adjustment. And all of that is regulated through the system of full nodes and miners. And, this builds up the blockchain, right? And what's the emergent property? Because that's the entire point. Well, that would be decentralization. Now, if you're someone new to the space, you come into space and you're like, oh, like half of blockchains aren't decentralized. So like you would not know that this is the point of a blockchain because it doesn't seem like the industry itself gets it. But it is actually, in fact, the point is to have a decentralized system is the minimum amount of, how do I say that? It's the minimum amount needed to have some sort of censorship resistance.
Let's talk about that censorship resistance. Man, you know what? I think I just found my co-host for Understanding Bitcoin podcast. Would you do it?
I would do it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, you're gonna school me on the financial side because I'll just be like green paper bad.
Oh no, this is no. There won't be much financial side.
But I got you on the tech.
No, this would be a tech.
Okay.
I just can't do it myself. I was gonna ask Jimmy. Jimmy's song will be part of it as well. But no. This would be all tech. It's understanding Bitcoin from a tech perspective, not the finance perspective. The finance side, people get enough of that from my other stuff. But just the tech side, mostly because I also want to educate myself. Like I can barely use the Lightning Network. Do you?
I have used Lightning Network, but I'm more just kind of like following the developments of it than use it because I don't use Bitcoin in that way. Like I'm not spending Bitcoin in small transactions, but that being said, if Bitcoin is going to be the world's reserve currency, if the dollar collapses, it has to work in the way that Lightning allows it to. I don't use Lightning as much as I would like to, but I just don't use Bitcoin in that way yet is the answer.
So I'm going to be, so we are going to get back to the book in a minute. But once again, guys, this is perfect for this conference. We're definitely going to have Kiara at this conference with a bunch of your book. In fact, I'm going to talk to Adam. It's
funny because I work at the company with Adam, and I don't even think I've had a chance to sit and talk to him about these, like explaining things with mental models, because it's a little. I'm trying to look at the price point of the book. I want to see if we can give this book out to everyone that registers. We're gonna do something because this is just a perfect book for the conference. Anyway, cool. To get off the subject, so I wrote this article: "What is crypto decentralization and why Bitcoin stands alone?" And for me, so I don't know, you haven't read this, right? No.
Okay. So I wrote this article, and I referenced a lot in this article. I referenced a lot of work from. It's a little longish, but.
Oh my gosh.
And
it's like over
here are the
50
references.
Yeah.
So I did reference some financial stuff, Saifedean stuff, obviously Satoshi's white paper.
What's your thesis here?
So the whole concept is I referenced a lot of On-Chain Capital's articles, Jimmy's articles, Nick Carter's articles. So the whole concept is I wanted to explain what makes Bitcoin decentralized. And for me, it was this triangle: the code, the mining, and the nodes.
You're not wrong.
It's three parts that make Bitcoin decentralized. And at the end, I compare it to the altcoin space. And if you're missing one of these parts completely, then your project will never be as decentralized because there's a three-part check and balance. However, the article is spent explaining why each individual part is in itself decentralized.
So,
Why the code is decentralized and how the code is being written in a decentralized way, how the mining is decentralized, and how the nodes are decentralized, and then they combine to be a decentralized model.
I understand what you're saying. I would say to be adversarial or to sort of be a pain in the ass about this, I would say that even though this is true, there's absolutely no way to measure the decentralization in any of those things.
That is true. That's why that's why I use the term sufficient decentralization, comparing it to other networks and projects.
Sure. You would know when decentralization failed, but you wouldn't be able to give a relative comparison.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then I'm using graphics like this to try and explain how Bitcoin does have a smart contract layer.
Interesting.
And this is from Lucas, and this is pretty old. This has now evolved even more. And that was a great article that I referenced from Lucas Nuzzi in this article.
I love the mining section.
So
it's pretty thorough.
Yeah. And this is now probably over a year old. So I'd love to see his update to this. All right. Anything else? We have a lot to talk about, but we did mention the smart contract layer of Bitcoin, how it's scaling, and we can just move on to check out the next chapter in the book.
Oh, I love it. Oh, it looks like you can't see more of a preview, which is a shame. But
no, but any other graphics you want to talk about here?
No. Let's see if we could get it, but maybe just talk in the background here for me. Let's see.
Okay. Speaking of, did you see that tweet the other day? Someone said it was titled "Regulate This," and it's a bunch of dice. Did you see that?
Yeah, I didn't see that, but that's pretty spicy.
See it.
Let's see if I can see it here.
My favorite tweet of the year.
This one's clickable. So if I go here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this is the level of understanding that I wanted to show for the time chain, right? So understanding that each block is this tick and these decentralized clock. You talked about
they can't
dice.
see your mouse, but if you hit the control button, you get that little.
Okay, I don't need to see the mouse, I think.
Okay.
That's generally, let's see if I have a better image too. I think that might be, okay, let's see, I got one more. If I go back to because you mentioned the dice, so now I'm going to bring that up. It's in the mining section. Okay, so often proof of work is described as a puzzle, which I think can be a bit confusing, like a Rubik's Cube sort of thing. I do think that the dice model is even better, so I cover that here. So what I show in this example is I show if you have a dice game where you're the only player, right? And you're like, you want to roll, you've set up some parameters that define your win. So the dice has 6 sides. I think that's right? The dice has 6 sides. Mm-hmm. And then if you roll a 1, we've arbitrarily created a game where that's the winning state. But what's interesting about Bitcoin is it's taken this like statistical truth and it's been able to create basically a game that scales, right? So as you add more players to the game, which is what the secondary image is showing, we can change the definition of what it means to win such that the game is always winnable in a fixed amount of time. It's sort of skipping ahead a lot, but basically the dice thing is hilarious. I think that this really explains how mining works at a level that people can understand when you go through the visuals. It's a little hard to do verbally, so don't feel bad if it doesn't make sense when I rant about it.
Yeah, so check this out. So we have someone with a super chat. Enjoyed listening to you during the Sacramento Bitcoin meetup, Kiara. Great book. Keep spreading the word.
Nice.
If I go to my Twitter or your Twitter, now that we showed some of your history. So if I go to my Twitter, I don't retweet often. And I literally retweeted with the phrase, by the way, speaking of Antifa, as you mentioned, all of the guys that caused havoc inside the Capitol building have been identified as Antifa and BLM. And some of them are finally being arrested, but it's too late. The media has done their damage. It's all Trump's fault. It doesn't matter.
The narrative has been shifted.
Yeah, so this right here.
I love this.
It says regular. I have to use sauna. It says regulate this.
Yeah, that's wonderful. You actually, you have to get the proper dice. I'm being a little bit too much a nerd about this. You need to get the correct dice in order to make private keys with it. And it's probably not the recommended way to do things.
Because it's binary, you need 256 of them.
We'll go with that. But no, there's a special type of dice that you need that has the actual characters and stuff. I forget. It's hexadecimal or something like that.
Oh yeah, you can do that as well. But
I guess you could you could probably do it the hard way. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, so the hard way would be to just have ones and zeros, and then you do 256.
And then you have to like put that in some sort of software that can convert it into an actual key for you. So that seems like too much.
All right, this thing's gonna keep going forever. I could like stare at this like all day.
That's really
funny.
So
great. Okay, so back to the book. Let's see. Any other interesting images?
Yeah, so like if you scroll down a little bit, one of the things that I try and do is I try and shift between actually maybe scroll up right. Oh, the alchemy of mining. That's a pretty good image. That one, someone bought that as art too.
Did you draw these by hand?
The guy who worked at the coffee shop, he did it for me, but he did it by hand.
Ah,
yeah,
this is really cool. No, this really is an awesome book, guys. Hey,
it's a piece of art for me.
You guys are gonna love this book.
Scroll up one more. Oh, this is me explaining the two different types of hashes. Scroll up a little bit again right here. Okay, so when I use the term mental models, what I'm really trying to do is give you something that you already understand and then bridge that to the world that is incomprehensible, right? Like this like land of just like bits, right? So I'm going back and forth in the book constantly and I'm saying, okay, this is the mental model. The mental model is this puzzle to regulate mining that we can change the arbitrary difficulty of. But then I go back to like what's below that. You'll see like a box here. This is just the raw data that's in a block, right? So I'm showing you like people use the term nonce and you're like, well, what is a nonce? It's just data. Right. It's just data. And this is like to scale.
Like what is a hash? Like you're going to hash this into the blockchain. What does that mean?
Well, there's two different types of hash. Well, not two different types, but hashes are used in two different ways in Bitcoin. In one way, it's used as a way to confirm that data is exactly the same as it was before, which, you know, again, it's kind of weird to think about it that way. But in another instance, hash is used as a measure of work. And maybe that one's the easier one to explain verbally. But basically, we know exactly how much computing power, how much electricity it takes to compute one hash. So we can use that as sort of like a yardstick for how much work you've put into the game we call mining. Yeah, that's the explanation. Again, doing it visually. The images are fun. My goal is to eventually publish a second book. Oh, that's so funny that he's smoking. Yeah, my goal is eventually to publish a second book called Crypto Chaos. So then it'll be Bitcoin Clarity. Crypto Chaos is sort of a sequel to it. And in that book, I wouldn't want to describe more of the history of all the stuff that's been tried in the cryptocurrency space, because what I see is that a lot of things are
before and after Satoshi.
Yeah.
All the way up, great,
right? Because you know, there's a whole bunch of projects that end up being scams. We'll just say that plainly without calling them out individually, and not
even on purpose. They just don't get it.
Well, ignorance and malice are kind of hard. There's some overlap at times. It's hard to know one from the other. But for whatever reason, these things end up not working, right? So,
hey,
what a cutie!
Babies come in.
Yeah, well, basically the idea is what was I saying? I was saying that a lot of these things end up being scams. And what I wanted to show in the book is if this scam is executed in this way, like say like an exit scam or whatever, it'll help you start to identify future potential exit scams, right? Because we've been in this space for so long, we have like a record. We're like a living record of all the trauma that's happened in the Bitcoin space. But for people
we forget it sometimes.
Oh, like,
if you don't write it down, because a lot of times like you mentioned that people are like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. I was there for that. And then some of these guys like disappear. And then they come back like 3 years later with like another freaking project. Yeah, like, wait a minute. I can swear you've done something like this before. You're trying it again now? Well,
another one is going to be wallets in the future, because there's a lot of like everyone has this thinking with wallets that like open source equals security. Right, especially people who are like not technical, where they think that that's the case. It's like, oh, because it's open source, it's secure. But like, there's been a number of dependency hacked where it's like because it was open source, it actually made it more vulnerable to people reading code.
They're two completely independent things.
Yeah.
Open source is just showing of your code. Then there is open source development, which means anyone can contribute.
Right. Well, I would also say the downside of open source is that it's really hard to monetize. And like, you know, the Signal is like a nonprofit, right? So maybe that'll
it's also more challenging to monitor a bad actor sneaking stuff in.
Yeah. And Bitcoin is lucky because it has a high degree of competent people looking at it, but it was probably a lot easier before there was a lot of people working on it.
Speaking of that, so here's and I only like discovered this kind of recently. So when I was writing, I'm trying not to talk about myself, but on my home podcast, when I was writing my article, I was looking for this one article that I read back in 2017.
Yep.
and it was about the uh, like the balance of power. It's somewhere in my references. It was about the balance of power. It was by, here it is, brand 7. It was about the balance of power, but it's not in here.
What was the concept of it?
The concept of it was kind of like nodes check miners, and then like miners check developers, right? But then that same person, brand 7, she's only written like 3 articles about Bitcoin, and total noob at the time, trying to figure out which side of the fork to be on, big blocks or not big blocks, listening to our podcasts it was on the World Crypto Network and my podcast. And she wrote this, and I didn't read this until recently because I remember her other article, and she's not in the crypto space anymore. It's just like there. I'm sure she still has some Bitcoin. And I read this as after I wrote my article, because that's when I found it. And this was absolutely awesome. This is coming from a noob, and I love sharing this. And this is what she writes. In order for her to understand it, what is so in a world of multiple Bitcoin forks, how can we define the real Bitcoin? Unfortunately, this question can never have a definitive answer because there are no inherent authority that can decide what the answer should be. Maybe asking for a definition is asking the wrong question. It might be better for everyone to ask themselves, what is my own perception of Bitcoins? And then she goes through the thinking process. As a user, your interest will be best served if you choose to exclusively give value to the version of the Bitcoin that you perceive as the real Bitcoin. Remember, you can do this by exclusively accepting that particular version as valid payment. She also talked about running her own node. As an author of this post, I can only speak for myself. The following is a train of thought that represents my personal perception of the real Bitcoin. And you're going to like this. Number 1, Bitcoin is a technology. Number 2, Bitcoin is the money that cannot be separated from Bitcoin, the technology. They are the same.
Sure.
Number 3, the value I have invested in Bitcoin is therefore an investment in a specific technology. All sorts of technologies are dependent on maintenance. To perform maintenance, there must be maintainers. My investment in this technology is therefore also an investment in the maintainers of the technology. My perception of the real Bitcoin is the one that is supported by the most qualified maintainers. As most qualified, I regard those who have the highest probability of success in enabling the continued survival of Bitcoin with the most important properties intact. In my view, the most important properties of Bitcoin is to be a censorship-resistant store of value that can be held and transferred without reliance on any trusted third party. By enforcing the consensus rules with my own validating node, I will exclusively accept as valid payment the version of Bitcoin that is my perception of the real Bitcoin.
Oh, I love that.
And this is coming from someone that was total noob, and this was her ultimate conclusion. And she wrote like 3 articles on Medium. That was one of them. It's referenced in my decentralization piece. If I click on her profile, this was her prior one. This was the miner she set up.
Old now, yeah.
This was her like chart of Bitcoin balance of power between nodes, the miners. I want to take a look at yours as well. And Bitcoin Lightning Network frequently from 2016. And that's it. Yep. The only 3 articles she ever wrote, and they were absolutely awesome.
I love it.
So
no, it's interesting because for me, like I got into Bitcoin because I was interested in the economics of it. So that was like 2012-ish, Ron Paul stuff. And
same.
Guilty.
Well, I didn't get into Bitcoin in 2012. I wish I did, but that's when I heard about it for the first time because I had to watch Ron Paul on RT, and that's how I saw Max Kaiser.
Oh, okay. So yeah, not too different.
Max Kaiser is directly responsible for getting me into Bitcoin without knowing. If it wasn't for Max Kaiser, I wouldn't be in Bitcoin.
Yeah, I feel the same about Ron Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ron Paul got me to Max Kaiser. Max Kaiser got me into Bitcoin.
So who's more responsible, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry, go on.
No, I'm trying to think.
Can we get to that graphic? The balance of power graphic?
Yeah, I could do that. It may be easier if we start with
There you are. Awesome picture.
Thank you.
All right, sorry, I kind of interrupted you for a second, but
okay.
I do that a lot.
It's okay, me too. Let's see if it'll let me click it though. So it's in the end when I talk about more of the it's under governance. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's going to.
So you were saying, why do you guys criticize open source?
I'm not criticizing open source. I'm just saying that you can't make it synonymous with security.
Well, this is the right. So there are different models.
Right. And like, look at the hardware wallets, like the hardware wallets that we run, like that has software that, is closed source. And like, no one is going out and saying, well, the software isn't secure because it's closed source. It's like, it's actually probably better to be that way. But it's
because closed source software, if you're running a valid company, you're going to have that code audited by very competent people. They're just under NDA, not to disclose it because it has proprietary things in it. In fact, it could be more secure because there could be security elements there that you don't want your competitors to have.
I remembered what I was saying about Ron Paul. I was saying that at the time of the fork and all that stuff that was happening, I saw a lot of people who got into Bitcoin because of the libertarian ethos.
Yes.
And they all got swept away with the Bitcoin the Bitcoin Cash libertarian narrative. They didn't think about Bitcoin as thoroughly as she did. Right, because she went step by step. This means this, then means this. That was very smart of her. But for people who are just on Twitter, who are just seeing like the surface level argument, I would say maybe even following into like the emotion of it more.
Yeah.
I know so many people that sold all their Bitcoin for Bitcoin Cash. It was quite sad.
And this is one of my problems. Like I was a speaker at the Anarchapulco conference the first 3 years. And after those first 3 years, I can't support that conference anymore. Every single vendor and not every single one, but like 80% of the sponsors and vendors and those pitching, they're just scamming other libertarians on their ideals.
They might believe it. Like one of the things that is brought up often is like, well, Bitcoin in the white paper, it says it's meant to be a cash, right? It's like cash, but the problem is like people don't understand what that meant at the time. So if you pull up the Bitcoin white paper, it's like literally
and it was in Saifedean's book. Oh, yeah, for the Bitcoin white paper.
But really,
we're gonna just have a reference.
You have a reference to it. Perfect.
Right here. Of course, have to.
Yeah. So when peer-to-peer electronic cash system, right? So Roger Ver and many other people, they'll highlight the word cash and they're like, it's meant to be like cash. But what he was trying to explain at a time before cryptocurrency as an asset class existed, he was trying to explain the desire for cryptographers to be able to send value in a peer-to-peer way, like cash, right? So if I hand funds to you, we should be able to know that I don't have it anymore. And only through the blockchain did he come up with a mechanism to do that. It's like cash, but he didn't mean, be like a fiat currency.
Right. Well, he could have if he wrote Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic velocity of money system. Like this is like the word cash has nothing to do with how fast or how cheap or how often it moves. It has to do with its qualities.
Yeah. So that was just the way that people were speaking about it at the time. Was the best example was, how do we model the offline world in the digital world? How do we take this offline existence of cash and make it more like, how do we create like a digital version of that? Because before Bitcoin, a lot of the cryptographic attempts to make, cryptocurrency was really totally centralized. Like all the projects were totally centralized, and none of them had this like peer-to-peer. At least none of them were peer-to-peer in a way that was successful.
And it's so simple to kind of identify when. I remember like 5 years ago, the most popular thing is when people still think it's popular. We're gonna have a cryptocurrency backed by gold. And my answer, well, how's that different than e-gold? We've already seen this play out.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
All right.
Not interesting to me to do that.
What else can we show?
If it'll let you click. Oh, it's only showing a few.
So let me click something. Control loops and feedback.
Yeah, it's kind of only showing the early chapters, but so this is, I'm using
like the toaster model.
Yeah, it's very simple, right? It's not Bitcoin for dummies, but it's Bitcoin for normies, right? And the idea here for people who want to a lot of systems operate on control feedbacks, but we don't actually think about them that way. So like temperature regulators in your house, the way that they work is, it's constantly, how do I even explain this? It's constantly checking the temperature and then seeing if it needs to adjust it. So the example that I give here is like, okay, you have a toaster. Gosh, should I go through the whole example? It's going to take me like a full 2 minutes.
That's fine.
Okay, so the example that I give here is the end goal is to get you from like no understanding to understanding how hash rate works and how difficulty adjustments can recalculate to make this system work, to issue new Bitcoin, to process payments, essentially to find a block such that the blockchain can continue in a reasonable way, right? So how does Bitcoin do this? The example I use to bridge that level of understanding is a toaster. And I say, okay, if you have a piece of toast that you know you like golden brown, you put it in your toaster and you know it takes 15 seconds. What happens when you have a frozen piece of toast? You no longer know how long you need to put it in the toaster for because it's a new type of toast, right? So what you could invent is a toaster that identifies the level of color instead of time. Right. And when you do that, you say, okay, you set it to golden brown instead of setting it to 15 seconds. Now, no matter what type of toast you put in the toaster, it'll always come out golden brown. This is what Bitcoin does.
How come we don't have one of these toasters yet?
I think we do, but it's probably like $100 toaster that no one wants to spend any money on. But yeah.
Right, because they give you the color, but it's just color, but it's still time based.
It might be.
Like on a toaster, you have that color thing. But it's not like, but it doesn't actually read the color. It just like assumes based on time.
No, you're right. You're right. That might not, it might exist. It might be a $200 toaster, but the comparison using that color identifying toaster to Bitcoin is really like, this is a system that takes in hash rate and wants to produce a block, but it also wants to make sure the block is produced in like reasonable amounts of time consistently. Right. So that's the golden brown color in this example. It wants to produce a block that in about 10 minutes. So no matter what the hash rate is going into this system, which you can see in the image, no matter what the hash rate is, the difficulty will always adjust to then make it so that the blocks are produced with the same amount of time. And I showed the dice image, but the dice image sort of explains the same thing. Oh, I go into the entire history of double entry accounting. What quote is this one? This is a quote from Slush.
All right. From Slush, simply put, I don't believe there are simple solutions for complex problems, which is definitely true. But a lot of the altcoiners think so I really need to stop talking about altcoins, and we do need to start an Understanding Bitcoin podcast. And people are already asking, when are you going to do a podcast, educating people how to set up a node, why to set up a node. That was the whole concept of Understanding Bitcoin. It was going to be.
I have slides for this entire book.
So this book is going to be the prerequisite for the podcast for all of us, including myself. So this book is going to be the prerequisite, and then we're going to try to bring you episodes on why and the how. The how is going to be a little trickier than the why. I can get some good people on to talk about why you should run a full node. Doing a demo on setting up a full node is more challenging, and this podcast would become a full-time job, and everyone knows me as the price guy. So, and I was thinking about retiring soon. Hopefully, Bitcoin is $250,000, and that will help a little bit. So, but I feel like I need to get this done. I feel like my battle to talking shit about shit coins, I need to retire that. Like, I don't care about them anymore.
It kind of gets tiring. Because you're always the monster always grows a new head.
Because they're not like new ones keep coming out. But something like this, I don't think there's any really good podcasts out there that explain this stuff in layman terms.
I have about 2 hours worth of content for each chapter, in terms of just like
video or
in slides.
In slides.
Some of them are in videos on my own personal YouTube channel.
Is that on your website somewhere?
On my YouTube channel.
It's on your YouTube channel.
So I started and I didn't quite it's basically a project that I'm continuing to work on. But as I got married, I moved from Chicago to Texas. So it's been a little slow going, but yeah, I've got maybe 6 or 7 that start to get into it, and I keep them shorter there, but I could make longer ones basically because I have the content to be able to do it.
Okay. So, by the way, guys, I keep forgetting to say, when you buy the book, and I'm literally saying when, please just go through Kiara's link. We're not sure if this is an affiliate link to her, but it can't hurt.
I don't think it is.
Whether it is, okay, so it might be just a general link.
Yeah, you could click the link. You could search for Bitcoin Clarity, but either way,
So
it looks better in print. I'll also say that people who do PDFs
right, I'm
don't
gonna
have
add
souls.
your YouTube channel to the video description.
Yeah. Oh, you could see my little noob level of subscribers there. But basically, if you scroll down
and follow her,
go down to Understanding Bitcoin with Mental Models. That is the one where I started to do this.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm not infringing on your branding.
I don't think so. Maybe I'm infringing on yours. I don't know. But
hey, I would love to like have this stuff. That's the other thing I wanted to do, but I have the domain understandingbtc.com.
Oh, I love that.
And I couldn't get Understanding Bitcoin. Understandingbtc.com is just as good. I
probably tried to buy it too. Maybe you bought it before me.
Maybe. Or you tried to buy understandingbtc.com?
Probably, because I was looking for a whole bunch of ones.
And I am more than happy to have my web developer work with you to get your content somewhere in here.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
And I'm more than happy to put that in. And well, I
think it's a good fit
because it's a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Especially when you have a YouTube channel with a playlist called Understanding Bitcoin.
With mental model, yes.
Yeah. So this is absolutely perfect. And I kind of wanted that website to be more of a user-friendly version of bitcoin.org, how to do shit.
Yep. Yep. So if you see if I have my website here, if you go to, I don't know how to use your mouse. This is here we go.
You're an Apple person.
So I have this website too. And then actually this safe right here, when I lived in Chicago, there was a safe in the basement of the Walgreens, and they would sell all the vitamins out of the safe. And I was like, this is so cool. I'm going to take my photo in front of it. But I do have like micro articles. Oh no, that's not it. Let's see, blog videos. Here you go. So I try and make,
cool.
Yeah, I haven't made that many, but basically I try and make blog posts to go with all the stuff that I do. That's the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
again.
a lot of time, like when not a lot of people are watching, you're not really motivated to do more.
Yeah.
But when you're getting the audience, you're motivated to do more. And this is actually, again, trying not to talk about you in the book, but one of the reasons why I'm stuck talking about trading and price of Bitcoin for so much is because people want to hear, and that's my audience.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna get 3,000 people watching me because they want to know where the price of Bitcoin is going, I'm using that platform to get my Bitcoin views out because they're completely aligned with yours. Lately, I've been getting my views on COVID and politics out, costing me some viewers, but I don't care. But hopefully that will end. But you have way more here than even on your website. So they're not even in sync. Okay, but we should get these over to, we're going to cross-post them to Understanding Bitcoin. I don't know how much free time you have in your life.
Yeah, and again, these videos are short, but I could probably do one chapter of the book for at least 2 hours. Like I could do a whole video on adversarial thinking.
But you're still doing this. This is 2 weeks ago. You're still active.
Yeah. I'm doing more stuff. See, I just moved, so now I have a better, like, this was my old apartment, and my new one's much better.
Yeah, you were in Chicago. Happy you got out of there. That's where we met for the first time, I think, a few years ago.
Yeah, well, the riots down below were sort of a reason to move. I like talking about the financial stuff too. I have a little video about the Fed. It's just there's so many things to say about finance that it ends up just being, again, like sort of repetitive in a way.
Hey guys, can we just break 400 subscribers? I'm not going to get off this page until it does. Give it 3 seconds.
There you go.
But I just said it, so this is a delay. There's like a 1 minute delay between me saying it and somebody picking it up.
Yeah, I did a video with Julia, who is she has her baby with her, so she's kind of like running around hanging with her baby. But Julia, one of the authors of Thank God for Bitcoin, we did a video on her channel.
Yeah, we should show that. This is Julia's website, Brave the World. She's in the background there. She's in the that's her right there, and that's her book. I got so much homework. Oh God.
Oh, I read her book real quick. I left a good review for it. She was one of the people who kind of edited the book too, my book, as I was writing it. Yeah, what else is there to say?
Hey, one more. Just one more. Then we can move on. Look, just talk a little more Bitcoin. We do have to. Is it 4:30 already?
Oh, I love that watch.
Is it 4:05?
It might be. Yeah, it might have been a full hour already.
Oh wow, that was a full hour. We got barbecue at like 4:30, and we still gotta stop by Julia. So I think we're gonna be wrapping this up. Guys, please check out Kiara's content. Like this is, I mean, I love it because my whole mission from day one was to try and explain Bitcoin in layman's terms. and your work is probably on that subject is probably better than mine, which is why this would be a perfect match. I do plan to start the Understanding Bitcoin podcast, which is where we will try and dive deeper into some of these topics. Maybe there are a few questions from the audience we can
Let's
take.
do it.
I do have moderators that are supposed to pasting me some questions, but I don't see any. Yeah, we should have broken 400 by now.
People are chatting.
I'm assuming you'll have. Let's try to get 418. Beautiful.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
get you over 500. I'm hoping that we can get you over 1,000. That's a nice milestone.
Yeah,
1,000
so.
subs is a nice milestone. It'll force you to do more videos more often.
Yeah. I film a lot of videos and then I'm like, oh, I have to edit them. So it's smart that you do things live, because you just make the video and then you're done with it.
Yeah.
But I like high production value. I like to bring in slides.
I can't. Can we? I'm gonna click on one. Which one?
Yeah, go for it. Whatever you want. I mean, I think I did a good one. Let's do Bitcoin keys. We've been talking about the time chain one a lot. We could do that one too.
Which one is the time chain one?
That one right there.
Technical. That one.
Either one. I think the keys one has the most views. So that seems to be something like one of the things is like SEOing, like what people are Googling
so let's
for.
Go with this one. I don't know if the audio will work.
Okay, so I want to just do a quick video.
Yeah, so the whole thing is with slides.
And private keys. So this is going to be Bitcoin basics.
It's short. Basic. It's like 5 minutes.
To get your head around the concept.
How do you do that? My videos are like no less than an hour and a half, sometimes 5.
Related to sending and receiving.
Well, I guess I have a goal in mind. My goal is to not waste people's time and just to get them the understanding what they're there for.
Bitcoin clarity.
Well, no one can hear it. No, they can hear it. They can hear it. They can hear it. They can hear it.
Oh, links for both of those things you can find below. The difference between what we think of keys in the physical world and the difference between keys in this Bitcoin cryptographic world is that there are two types of keys in cryptography, right? We have the public key and the private key, and we don't know exactly what that means yet. We do understand what a basic key is, so let's view that now. So this right here is an animation of a standard physical key. The idea... The idea is you could turn the key one way to lock the door, or you could turn the key another way to unlock the door. Now, I'm saying door here, but obviously a lock could be for anything, right? So the difference between a Bitcoin key and a physical key is that we split these two functions into two separate keys. So we have a private key that unlocks, and we have a public key that locks. So if this visual isn't enough for you to understand it, let's walk through it, a more specific scenario for Bitcoin. So the way Bitcoin works is that when you want to receive Bitcoins, if I were to send you Bitcoins, you would send me a copy of your public key. So this is you on the right, you have your public key, and then you send that over to me so then I have a copy of it. The next thing that I do is I take your public key and I lock up some batch of Bitcoins represented as this cute little box over here. I lock up some Bitcoins on your behalf in a box, and then I send the lock box back to you. Now, because you have the corresponding private key for that public key, you can then unlock that box that I just sent you. So the idea is we'll summarize again. You send me your public key. I lock up Bitcoins for you using your key, and then I send you your coins. Now, only you can unlock it because only you have that private key. So what's new here is that instead of having one key, as we would with a physical lock, we separate this functionality into two keys, right? The public key allows me to lock things up for you on your behalf, and the private key allows you and only you to open it. The reason why we do this is so that you don't ever have to send that private key through an unsecured channel, right? Because when you send me your public key, I can't unlock stuff for you. I can only lock stuff for you, meaning that you keep your private keys presumably offline. This is why we use things like hardware wallets or cold storage, where we keep our private keys offline entirely. And the idea is you never have to send that private key. You keep it only to yourself, private. Okay, in Bitcoin, public keys are used for locking and receiving Bitcoin on the blockchain. And private keys are used for unlocking and sending Bitcoins on the blockchain, right? So we can visualize this just a slightly different way, because now we want to relate the functionality of locking and unlocking to sending and receiving. So in a transaction, the sender unlocks their funds on the blockchain. Assuming, let's say I have some Bitcoin, again, that I'm sending to you. I unlock my Bitcoin, I'm the sender in this case, using my private key. And then I lock that same Bitcoin up for you using your public key, right? And all this is happening on the blockchain, except for the private keys are off. This is a bit of a nuance. We'll get to that at a later time. We're trying to stay basic here. In Bitcoin, locking and locking is the same function as sending and receiving. A private key allows Bitcoin to be spent. A public key allows Bitcoin to be received by locking Bitcoins for the recipient. All right, so that's my 5-minute video on Bitcoin keys. I hope that was helpful. And if you have any questions, do leave them in the comment section below. If you want to learn more about Bitcoin, you can check out the next video, which will probably be about keys, addresses, and wallets. All right, see you there.
All right, I'm gonna stop screen share for a second, and we switched blondes in the chair, and now we are on with Julia. Julia, Kiara's work is absolutely excellent.
See, told you so.
Yeah. I know. I should have been watching her YouTube channel.
She's just a little low key, and she's the kind of person that like focuses on a project real hard and does an amazing job of it, and then just moves on to the next project. And I'm like, she wrote her book, barely did any marketing, and in that time of her not doing any marketing, I wrote a book and did marketing. I'm like, why aren't you doing marketing? You need to promote your book. It's a great book.
Well,
so
right.
I'm
We're
really
doing
glad
marketing now.
Yeah, I'm glad she got to hop on here, because it is like the amount of time and effort she spent on it, and the amount of
to subscribe.
great information she has on it. If honestly, it's perfect for your audience.
It is. It's perfect for me. Guys, subscribe. You just watched me do it. Hit the bell, and almost at 500. Beautiful. All right. I wasn't subscribed. I'm subscribed now.
Yeah, and she some very, very technical and prominent people reviewed the book and made sure that it was on point. So you won't have to like be worried if it's correct or not. It's definitely correct.
Hey, we had a good question. We also had a good comment. 5-minute videos equals what was it? Organization plus there it is. Organization plus speaking fast minus the tequila. That is correct. That could probably make my videos 5 minutes. But hey, so this actually is a good question. It's not a gloom and doomish question, but it is going to lean that way. So someone asks, there are whispers about, and maybe Kiara will answer as well. There are whispers about possible power outages coming with civil unrest after inauguration. If power does go out and people can't access exchanges to buy and sell Bitcoin, what effect do we think it will have on the price? And of course, it's a price question. Honestly, guys, I don't know. We've never had that before.
I've heard this rumor.
I can make the argument in either direction, that this could raise the price of Bitcoin, this could lower the price of Bitcoin. But here's what I know for a fact.
I think it would raise it.
There will still be a Bitcoin block approximately every 10 minutes. That's a fact. What it will do to the price, I don't know. If you are going to try to speculate on the price of Bitcoin during civil unrest and an outage in your country, you really should have higher priorities in your life. So if you're a foreigner and this is happening in the US, the answer is I honestly don't know if this will crash the price of Bitcoin or make it skyrocket. I am just going to be happy that I have Bitcoin.
I mean, no one will be able to do any kind of exchanges except in cash for that time, really. Like, you can't use a credit card. It's all
right.
Like, so
you have bigger problems.
Everything else will crash
faster. We're not that set up with satellites yet. Yeah, there's gonna be way bigger problems.
In theory, it's much easier to continue to do Bitcoin transactions if there's a power outage and internet outage, because there is a satellite, and you can also set up your own satellite, like DIY kind of style. So in theory, it's actually easier to continue to transact Bitcoin than like paying something with Visa.
Hey guys, you gotta have like more like realistic questions.
So I don't think it's unrealistic. No. I think there might be power outages.
No, well, you haven't read the next question yet.
Okay.
My moderators, I know you guys find it interesting as well. So the first question was about an electricity outage, and the next question is about extraterrestrials with telepathy and how that affects Bitcoin. Can we like stick to that? Can we stick to like?
There's no aliens. There's just an anti-Christian psyop. Get out of here. It's just to become. It's to shake your foundations of hope and belief that humans aren't just physical, and it's to make you complete nihilists. Believe in the little gray men. You're just material. Despair.
So Kiara, what do you think about gold and silver? Were you ever like a gold silver bug, or just straight into tech?
Well, when Bitcoin first came on the scene, I was like a teenager, so I can't say I was ever like a gold bug because I was probably just too young.
Rolling.
It was what I would have been like an 18-year-old being like, ah, yes, let me buy some gold. I'm sure there are kids like that out there, but no, I was interested in the technology. I thought it was a cool new thing.
All right, everyone's interested in the charts. See, we only have like 400 live watching, so it'll be hard to get you to 500
Hey, we're
on
good.
this live
This is
show.
good.
We'll
do some other things together where we'll talk
people
more
want to
depth.
know about the price. I want to know about the price. Are we going up? Are we going down? I have no idea. I'm hanging out. We're about to go barbecue to eat some barbecue. Oh, beautiful. So I jumped the gun a little bit. I wanted to buy down here, but I was on a podcast with you guys. So I ended up buying closer to here, around 35 and change. I didn't get my nice price of 34 and a half. I was around 35 and a half. And we did go lower and we bounced right off the hourly MRI buying opportunity. We're now back up. I am bullish again. I've been bullish all day. I'm not buying into this drop. I know the Mt. Gox coins are supposed to start selling, and GBTC closed not great, but it closed above my entry. I was able to get in, I believe, lower than I think, maybe. I might have gotten around this price. Might have been a little bit lower. I got to double check my account. I just threw in my buy order. I bought whatever I had left. And the daily chart is still okay. We still got a few hours to the close. The stronger this candle finishes, I'm still thinking we can test all-time highs this weekend, even as early as this weekend. Once this Mt. Gox news blows over. Crazy politics. I don't know if you want to provide your views on politics. Don't do that. You don't lose viewers like me. Kiara has no political opinion nor an opinion on a mask.
Or opinion on price, even.
Or opinion on price. But this is perfect. I have Jimmy. You better watch out, man. That's I have a backup. Jimmy's not watching. It's great. I just saw him yesterday.
Oh.
Jimmy probably won his bet. Trump can't pull this out. It's over. Biden is your president, and that's what we have. No more politics. Once February rolls around, I'll probably stop talking politics. I'm just going to go back to Bitcoin, but I really do want to. I want to talk more about how understanding Bitcoin. I stay on these podcasts forever. We got to get going, guys. I am still bullish. I'm liking this. We started to rally. We pulled back a little bit. We did not break the low. All we got to do is get back above 37, and I think we're in business. Back to the upside. The weekly is still great.
Julia's not above talking about
250K is still in reach. No opinions on BlockFi, guys. Follow Kiara. Follow Kiara for technical knowledge, the breakdown of the technical knowledge in layman's terms, which is awesome. Once again, here's her Twitter. It's do you also own the underscore? That's a scam or imposter.
I don't know.
Kiara
I might have got it as a backup, but I don't remember.
That could have been smart. But this is Kiara's Twitter for now, because I think all of us are getting off Twitter slowly. She does work at Blockstream. You've been there 5 years.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. Here is the book.
It's a fun place to work.
Bitcoin Clarity. It's actually been out for over a year now.
Yeah, I did the PDF or whatever, the Kindle version quite a while ago, but I update it about every quarter to just add context for what's happening in the world and stuff, so it stays fresh and relevant.
All right, and follow her YouTube channel as well. Oh, that was the first one. Yeah, so it was 385, and now we're
thanks, guys.
We did well. 455. Hopefully people watch this on replay. Check it out, get the book, read the book, and then we'll try and get the Understanding Bitcoin podcast going.
Thanks. It sounds fun.
All right, awesome. It's been fun. We're gonna get going, guys. Thank you all for watching. We're gonna stop the share, and we will see you all on the next one. Get